Now, friends, in part one, I introduced to you the Cold War, the reasons for the Cold War. Now, I'm going to get into detail about the reason and um, furthermore discussion towards the Russia and Ukraine war, because this is a very pressing issue around the world, and people are very curious about to know the uh, historical backing of these wars. Okay, so let me tell you the 15 or 16 points are there which led to the conflict of the Cold War. As a result of these two, uh, many points of um, the Cold Wars, actually it increased the distrust between these blocs. So they are now here and there fighting for their dominance. In global politics is actually driven by the first thing comes into the ideology. First kind of people saying democratic fabric we are following, and capitalistic economy, communist Leninist policy, Leninism kind of thing, Maoist policy, Maoism kind of policy, the CPC called as China People's, the party following their uh, ideology. So many different kind of set and subsets are there in a political ideology, but these are the created the differences worldwide, and the following countries which was following the process of this ideology wanted to create their power of influence. So that's created the concentric conflicting circles. So let me tell you about the historical cause of the Cold War. The capitalist economy means the Western economy in 1917 opposed the Soviet Union because the communism were a worldwide movement, and Soviet Union's communism was a worldwide movement, but these Western countries actually opposed. And its objective was the expansion of communism and end of the capitalist in the world. That was the objective. The Soviet Union government was established in 1917, but the Britain approved it in 1924, and the American approved in 1933. Okay, they recognized the government, and the secret security pact was signed between the USSR, means the Russia now, and the Germany, concluded in 1939. Before the Second World War, they secretly signed with Germany some kind of pacts, security pacts, and the Soviet refused to join the war against Nazi Germany under the Western powers, very useful for the Soviet role. So, due to this agreement pact, which was signed between USSR and Germany in 1939, so according to their agreement, they didn't join the uh, against German because they have already signed the pact, security pact. So later, this actually created first thing distrust between the Western blocs and the Russian, because the Germany was isolated by the Western and uh, the Eastern powers. So German, led by the Hitler, was the main hero. The growing power of the Hitler Germany and the subsequent German aggression against the Soviet Union on 22nd June 1942 forced the Russian to join the Second World War on the side of the Allies. Actually, first thing Russia did was he was not willing to join the war. Okay, but when Germany, Hitler-led Germany, invaded into the USSR, then Russia responded. So the first thing, the historical causes, uh, was that ideological differences. I told you the communism, capitalism kind of differences, which ideological differences created the distrust between these two countries. So, point third is the use of atomic bomb by America. The used American decision to maintain secrecy over the over her atomic capability, and in respect of the decision to drop atomic bomb over Japan without taking the Soviet Union into confidence, greatly envied the Soviet Union, greatly increased the differences between the Soviet Union, because he was saying that the Soviet Union and all the powers, excluding Germany, is the allied. But they created distrust. You know, they didn't even took the USSR into confidence, but they, despite its decision to share the atomic secret with the Britain and Canada, America decided to keep it secret from the USSR. That has created the difference. Distrust. Stalin was you know, the ruler on that time. Stalin considered it as a great betrayal, which demonstrated lack of trust, Western trust and confidence in the Soviet friendship and cooperation. He felt greatly alarmed at the American monopoly over the atomic secret and considered it as a threat to the Soviet interest. The atomic factor came to sharply divide the East and West. Okay, so this was the actually the biggest cause, became the biggest cause of differences. And fourth point is the propaganda against the US. The Western attempt to encourage a counter revolution in socialist Russia were strongly disapproved by and objected by the Soviet leaders. The Western policy of appeasing Hitler's Germany was interpreted by the Soviet leadership as a Western strategy to build Germany and Italy as a counterpose of the communism. This believed that the Western powers were encouraging Hitler to embark upon the policy of expansion towards the USSR. So this kind of policy that adopted by created the again distrust, violation of Yalta Conference by the Russia. When this kind of distrust and nuclear not sharing, taking the confidence kind of things, and uh, many other things came into the uh, front of the USSR leaders, they violated the Yalta Conference. So uh, by that, the Soviet help to Chinese Communist Party, USSR used to control over the Manchurian northern part of the China for helping the communist forces of Maoist, and used to help the nationalist army of China to operate against the communist forces. Point six is that the frequent use of veto power by Russia. After 45 United Nations came into being, and the Russia got the veto power. And frequently, since then, Russia uses it very frequently as a tool, okay, to sabotage the Western interest. So the Western countries read it as a uh, threat for their interest. So they that veto power annoyed actually the Western and Eastern powers, created again the difference. The delay, seventh point, delay in the opening of the second front against Germany. The Soviet Union, when the Germany invaded into the Soviet Union called the France to Britain and France, United States, etc. Whoever the west of Germany was there, they called it. You have to open the second front from the west, and I will oppose into the east, and their Germany forces will be divided so their strength can be handled. But they delayed in attacking from the west side, so Germany got the power they have. They attacked completely on one direction towards the Russia, so that created also the distrust. Hmm. When the Germany forces was rapidly advancing into the Soviet Union, Stalin believed that there was an urgent need for immediate open second front against Germany. This alone felt Stalin could stamp the advance of the German forces to the USSR and thereby reducing the pressure upon the Soviet security. As against such a Soviet view, both Churchill and Roosevelt maintained that it was not possible for them to immediately open a second front against the Germany, as that required a long and full preparation. Later on, the Western powers agreed to open the second front, but in doing so, they decided to operate from the Central Europe side, okay, and from the Western side, and advocated Western side was advocated by the Russia, but they started attacking from the central side. That is also created the problem to the USSR. So that was also uh, was a problem. It delayed in the opening of the second front as well as the Western decision to choose a different area for operations against the Germany created disturbance and greatly disturbed the USSR. It was interpreted by the Stalin as a deliberately delayed decision, motivated by the Western to permit Germany to inflict heavy losses on the Soviet people. So the point number 8 is the relationship of Western countries with fascist Italy. That was also created a problem. Propaganda against the Soviet Russia, the Western press and the leadership. This is a very important thing right now. Is this time and from 1947. Uh, the Western press and the leadership. This is very important. Listen to me. Western press and the leadership always kept their propaganda against communism and the Soviet policies. This is I am witnessing right now. It kept in talking of the grave threat that the communist menace was posing to the free world, and that the Soviets were out of transfer of transfer of the world into the communist world. USSR felt greatly annoyed with such Western traders against communism and its policies. So deliberately they started. their propaganda. Just right now they are doing. Point 10. Soviet refused to withdraw its forces from northern Iran. Also created problem. And point 11. USSR pressure on Greece. That also created difference. The Soviet attempt to tame Turkey. After the war, the Soviet after the war means the Second World War. Okay, the Soviet Union put pressure on Turkey and demanded the secession of some Turkish territory to the USSR. In particular, it wanted to establish a military base. Russia means USSR wanted to establish a military base in the Bosphorus. These demands were opposed by the Turkish and the Western powers as well. The USSR came forward, okay, to support Turkey in a big way. The reason is that not to support the Turkey, but to oppose the USSR action. Okay, the USA came into support to Turkey. The US President Truman was then the President Truman. Truman initiated the famous Truman Doctrine, in which he promised. Truman Doctrine says that all help to all such countries who were struggling to safeguard their right to have a government to their people. Unquote. I will extend help to those countries who are struggling to establish their government of their choice. Of their choice, that means that the Turkey and the surrounding areas, Iran kind of countries, was in the influence area of the USSR. So these countries, the Western countries, wanted to give them freedom. That you have to choose: you want a democracy, or you want to come out of the influence area of the USSR. You know, have to understand this. Means they wanted to free them from the USSR influence. Just they are right now doing in the Taiwan, their independence. They are saying that we recognize one China policy. That's okay. We understand it. But they are saying that the forcefully uh, getting the Taiwan into the mainland China is, I will oppose this. So what kind of thing is this? So that's the policy of Western countries. Okay. They are saying that Taiwan has the right to self-determination. He followed this up by the promising huge economic and military aid to both Greece as well as Turkey. And the Soviet attempt to pressurizing Turkey made the Western countries realize the danger of communism